Let's talk about the ad placement setting in Facebook ads that gives us the best quality of coaching clients. My name is Jason Nyback. I invest about $1 million a year roughly in Facebook ads, and then we share all of our learnings and whatnot with our clients and best practices and stuff like that. And I want to talk to you today about the ad placement setting we find that gives us the best quality of coaching clients. So let's get into it. What does that even mean? Well, when you launch an ad on Facebook in your ads manager, you have a number of placements where you can run that ad. And what that means is, for example, newsfeed mobile, newsfeed desktop, Instagram, the right-hand column, and there's all kinds of other ones, stories and all kinds of places, right? Now, what Facebook does by default is they basically say, let us figure it out and just use, all placements, right? And then you launch your ad, you run it, and you're like, oh, I don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. Where'd all the people go? I mean, you can break it down, but the problem is this. Every placement creates a different scenario for number one, how your ad needs to look, and number two, the quality of that placement. And this is a big deal, okay? If you just go all placements and run your ad, and it's by default, you don't have to do anything. When you launch an ad, if you don't change any of it, it's gonna go everywhere. And the problem is you're giving Facebook the opportunity to decide where they send your ad. And they might send it to Instagram, more people to Instagram, or the right-hand column. We're on desktop, those little right-hand ads, and you keep sending those. You don't know. And here's the biggest problem out of all this. It is ridiculously hard to track conversions back to the placement. Okay, you can do it, but it's tricky because if you use Facebook's tracking, it's all pixel-based, and some people have pixel blockers and all that kind of stuff. So, never found it to be accurate. And so then what are you left doing? You're left going, well, I guess, it looks like they ran a bunch of my ads to Instagram and I got cheap leads. So I guess I keep doing that, but nobody's buying, nobody's booking calls. What do I do? Keep spending money, I hope, I don't know. What do I do, right? And that's the problem is if you don't know. And I've talked about in other videos that you can look up of ours that we spent about $50,000 just on Instagram ads for a test, just purely tested. We isolated every variable to make sure that we could have as close to 100% accuracy as humanly possible. And you know what we found? Instagram ads brought us the cheapest leads, like by far, but the cost per client was like double Facebook. It was horrible, okay? So it was deceptive because cheap leads don't always equal qualified clients, right? And that in itself is what happens. So what do we do? What's the best ad placement? Let's talk about that, okay? The best ad placement that we found that we like the best is the news feed, okay? So what we recommend and what we do is we will run in the ad set, when you launch an ad on Facebook, we pick the manual placements option and we run all the ads to only the news feed, okay? Now, what about mobile and desktop? Because it'll give you the option on that. We use both. I mean, look, not a lot of people are on desktop, and I'll tell you something. Probably not too many years ago, I only ran desktop ads, and I never touched the mobile newsfeed because the quality wasn't as good. But Facebook got really good, and the quality on the mobile newsfeed that we've experienced, as far as we've experienced, has improved dramatically. It's also cheaper. We find that if you go desktop only, as a placement for the desktop newsfeed, it's expensive. And so we don't really, we just let Facebook figure out which newsfeed to go on desktop or mobile. And for the most part, probably 80-90% of our stuff goes on the mobile. Okay, it is what it is, and go from there. Now, why is this so important? Because it allows us to isolate it. Okay, so now we're isolating it to one placement, and we can now track it. So if we get a sale, we know it came from that placement, right? We get leads, we know it came from that placement. Calls came from that placement. We just isolate it. It's also easier to create the ads because you're only creating ads for mobile desktop, okay? What about those right-hand column ads? People will often use those right-hand column ads. Here's the problem with those right-hand column ads, and they're on desktop. From what I've experienced and know, there's no frequency cap. Now, what does frequency cap mean? Well, here's what that means. when you run an ad on mobile, they cap the frequency at 1 per day. Now, what does that mean? Well, what that essentially means is they theoretically will only show that ad to the same person once in a day. Okay, so if somebody saw your ad on a Monday, theoretically, Facebook's not going to let them see that ad again until a Tuesday. Okay, so that way, what that does is it doesn't fatigue them, because you don't want the same people seeing your ad every day or multiple times a day, like 3 times a day, seeing the same ad again and again and again. People start hiding it, and when they hide your ad, it makes Facebook's algorithms go, there's something wrong with that. So we have an issue, and we need to maybe look at their ad account or something. It's not good. Now, there is supposedly no frequency cap on right-hand column ads. So those little ads you see on the right-hand side of Facebook, they just keep going. You can see the same ad again and again and again and again and again, right? No frequency cap. So what does that mean? It means that people get sick of watching those stupid ads, and then they just get mad. And you don't want to make people mad. Like, mad people who see your ad are not going to click on it and want to be like, oh, this looks really cool. I'm glad they annoyed me with their ad 40 times today. I'm going to now click on it and, buy whatever they have. It just doesn't exist, right? Nobody does that, okay? So the other problem with those right-hand column ads is there's no context. Because remember, you'll see in other videos that I've talked about, what is the number one job of your ad? To get a click? No, absolutely not. The number one job of your ad is to disqualify the wrong people from clicking on it, right? Because you do not want happy clickers. There's a lot of people on Facebook who just are there to waste time because they got nothing else to do. They're like, oh, I'm just going to kill some time, go on Facebook, look at my news feed, so on and so forth. That's what it's there for, right? In a lot of ways. And these are the types of people who will see your shiny ad, right, and be like, oh, that looks good. I'd like to lose 20 pounds, or I'd like to learn NLP, or that kind of thing, right? And they're just clicking away, and they're not qualified. Where a news feed ad gives us 300, 400, 500 words that we're allowed to, or we're able to qualify them. So we can get them to read that ad where it says, specifically, are you a 6-figure professional business owner working whatever, if it's 6 hours a week, do all these things like that. And this ad's for only you, okay? So we can qualify them so these other people who are just happy clickers aren't going to click on that because they're like, nah, I don't want that. That's not me. I'm just bored. You know what I'm saying? And so you always got to remember that the number one job is to disqualify people, not qualify people. All right? So on those right-hand column ads, you have no capacity to do that. It's just a little ad, a catchy image, and it just pulls people in, and then they click or they get annoyed. So that's why I don't use those. I use Newsfeed mobile and desktop, or just Newsfeed in general, and let Facebook figure it out, and it's all good. Okay? That's what we do, and quite frankly, that's all we do. And again, like, I spend roughly somewhere around $1 million a year, and it's all going to the newsfeed. I've never found anything to convert even close to what the newsfeed does, because again, what is the number one thing you're looking for? Qualified calls, not just cheap leads. You can't take your cheap leads and print your screenshot off, or your screen off, print your Facebook screen off that shows your cheap leads, and take it to the bank and be like, hey, I got really cheap leads at Facebook. What do I get for it, right? It doesn't work. They have no value, all right? It's just vanity metrics. It sounds really good, but just getting cheap leads does not equal qualified clients, and it can be deceptive, all right? Be like, wow, the leads are coming in, they're flowing great, they're cheap. Man, the qualified people are going to start showing up. And a lot of times they never do. So that's why, again, my whole focus is qualified calls, and then everything else takes care of itself. Because if we're talking to qualified people who want to be on that call, who are good and they're legitimate, they're the real deal, well, then it makes getting clients a lot easier than sifting through all these disqualified leads. Who are you? Why'd you call me? I don't understand. I don't know who you are. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Money. I don't know. I didn't know how to pay for this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Coaching. I don't want coaching. And eventually you just give up and quit. So that's what we do. That's why we do it. And I hope it helps. Make sure you like this video so that we know you like it. And then hit the subscribe button so we can get you more of the same. All right, take care.